The Audi e-tron GT, Ingolstadt's Porsche Taycan-based four-door Grand Touring flagship EV model, used to be quite hard to justify, but things have changed. The heavily revised version of this car gets longer range, faster charging and much more power. If you were about to sign for a Taycan or perhaps even a fast electric big luxury SUV, don't ignore this Audi. Even in the base S e-tron GT form we look at here, it now has that wow factor.
The original version of Audi's e-tron GT was rather overshadowed by its Porsche Taycan design stablemate, so this Ingolstadt model's midterm update could hardly be more important, and it's brought us a lineup that now starts with the S e-tron GT variant we look at here. When the e-tron GT first arrived back in 2021, it was the first sign that Audi might be getting really serious about EVs. Prior to that, all we'd had were the underwhelming e-tron and e-tron Sportback SUVs, but the e-tron GT, that was cut from very different cloth, built upon a much more advanced 800-volt J1 platform that was co-developed with Porsche, on which that Zuffenhausen brand based its rival Taycan model. The Taycan, as it turned out, sold quite well, helped by the way the original GT sedan model was joined by a couple of Turismo crossover variants. With the e-tron GT, Audi chose to stick only with the fastback four-door format, instantly restricting sales, and they were further throttled when prospective owners found out that the claimed 298-mile range was actually more like 240 miles in regular use. That didn't tempt many of them to engage in the cross-continental Grand Turismo touring that was promised by the swept-back looks. In this updated form though, announced in mid-2024, this car could be worth a second look. It's known as the e-tron GT-PI within Audi, those last two letters standing for product improvement, and there really has been a lot of that. Virtually everything about the powertrain has been fundamentally improved with a bigger, faster charging battery, and the result is a big increase in driving range. That's despite the provision of all the extra power which justifies the acquisition of an S to the standard model's badge. As before, it sells alongside a wilder RS e-tron GT model. So will all these enhancements be enough to put this car back on the map in the segment? As usual, you'll need the industry's most comprehensive review, the car and driving road test, to find that out. It wasn't especially hard to identify the biggest issue with the original version of this car. It was its relatively restricted drive range. In standard e-tron GT Quattro form, it was supposed to go 298 miles on a single charge, but we never came across an owner who got anywhere near that. Well, forget about that now, because in place of the old 93 kilowatt-hour battery pack, Audi's installed a lighter, more energy-dense battery with 105 kilowatt-hours, supposedly offering up to 374 miles in this S e-tron GT. In an era where luxury EV saloons like the Mercedes EQS can go up to 481 miles between charges, that's hardly an amazing figure, and it's worth noting that it's 20 miles down on what you get from a directly equivalent Porsche Taycan GTS, but it's certainly much more like it. You might be wondering about this model's added S moniker. Well, that's to designate the vast increase in output delivered as part of this update, and we really do mean vast here. The old model generated 476 PS in standard form, or up to 530 PS with launch control boost mode engaged. Well, for this S e-tron GT, those figures have risen to 500 PS and 680 PS respectively. This is why, with launch control engaged, the 0 to 62 miles an hour sprint time of this car has fallen from 4.1 seconds to just 3.4 seconds, although the 152 miles an hour top speed remains the same. It feels very fast indeed. If you want to go faster still though, there's an RS e-tron GT as before, now with a potential boosted output of up to 865 PS, up from 646 PS before. Our car and now also offered in uprated flagship performance form, where the car generates an almost ludicrous boosted total of up to 925 PS. Big power hikes though are these days just a software tweak away. Fortunately, the re-engineering of this e-tron GT goes a bit deeper than that, principally with the installation of a redesigned and standard fit two-chamber air suspension system featuring dual chamber springs and dual valve dampers. This allows for variable ride heights at high speeds and, as you'd hope, significantly improves ride quality over poor surfaces. Plus, as Audi claims, it brings about a wider bandwidth between the soft and sporty ride settings that you can select from the Drive Select driving mode system, which offers the usual efficiency, comfort, dynamic and individual settings. Otherwise, things are much as before, with all the engineering shared with this car's VW Group cousin, the Porsche Taycan, which you can't really blame Audi for because it's extremely complex. The Taycan is offered in a rarely chosen rear-driven base form, but the e-tron GT has always standardized dual motor quattro drive, courtesy of motors at the front and at the rear. Aided by an e-torque vectoring system, the traction generated by this setup is really quite astonishing. At almost any cornering speed, the thing just grips and goes. Although this powertrain's front motor is as before, the rear motor is now completely new, more compact and 30 kilos lighter. As before, in what still seems like quite an innovation, the rear motor is connected to a 2-speed gearbox, which uses its second gear for pulling away, although you can hear it dropping down to first in the launch phase if the dynamic mode's been activated. All of this is as in most Taycans, which get pretty much all the same mid-term upgrades as are featured here. That means that, as before, there's only one real area of key engineering difference between these two cars, and that's steering feel. Ingolstadt has always developed that differently. That makes it lighter than a Taycan and more familiar to customers graduating into this car from another Audi. Various drive modes adjust steering weight, but it's always slightly remote in its feel, even if you get a Vorsprung or RS trimmed e-tron GT, which is fitted with the slightly sharper sport steering version of this setup. Enthusiasts, of course, will prefer Zuffenhausen's take on this, but there really wasn't very much point in this being simply another copied carryover, and those with Grand Touring in mind might actually prefer Audi's take on it. Earlier we mentioned the air suspension system, as well as the standard version of that setup fitted here. It also comes in more sophisticated active form, although you'll only get that if you order your preferred flavour of e-tron GT with exorbitantly expensive Vorsprung trim. The active ride system aims to almost entirely neutralise body vibrations on poor road surfaces, compensating for pitch and roll and keeping the car's body on a near horizontal plane. To be specific, it can counteract roll by up to 2 degrees by tilting the body slightly into the turns, while in a straight line it can mitigate pitch and squat with up to 25 millimeters of upward suspension travel on either side of the car. It's all very, very clever, and on the right road it can feel almost magical, as you'd hope it would do for the price premium required. Another thing you have to pay extra for on this S e-tron GT is the all-wheel steering system we tried on the original version of this model, which Audi has standardized on the RS e-tron GT. With this, at speeds of up to 31 miles an hour, a spindle drive turns the rear wheels in the opposite directions to the fronts by up to 2.8 degrees, improving maneuvering and the turning circle. At higher speeds, where the system's roll switches to promote cornering stability, the rear wheels turn slightly in the same direction as those at the front. To finish, let's reference all the effort Audi's put into this car's upgraded braking system. This now creates a vast amount more regenerative energy before the caliper gets involved, up from 290 kilowatts before to nearly 400 kilowatts. Brake pedal feel is vastly better too. At this e-tron GT model's original launch, Audi rather immodestly described its external design as a work of art, an exaggeration perhaps, but it was certainly striking, and it remains so in this updated form, with the long wheelbase, the wide track, the large wheels and the low-lying silhouette, all providing beautifully balanced, sleek and aerodynamic proportions. And it's always refreshing to find a large luxury all-electric model which isn't an SUV, not in any of its guises. Unlike with this model's Porsche Taycan close cousin, there are no crossover variants of this car. Audi claims that this updated e-tron GT is an almost completely new car. You might struggle to believe that on initial acquaintance because every single exterior panel has remained unchanged. As before, the dimensions are certainly those of a classic Grand Tourer with a 4.99 metre length and 1.96 metres of width, but a height of just 1.41 metres. As I just suggested, it's a slippery shape. The drag coefficient is rated at 0.24 CD, and these air curtains between the doors and the front wings are a lovely detailed touch. Plenty to consider then as you admire what Mark Lichter and his design team have achieved here. The elongated bonnet and the flat windscreen merge elegantly into a rapidly sloping roofline, and the glass house extends tautly over the powerful body, drawing in particularly sharply towards the rear, where gently inclined C-pillars blend beautifully with the body's muscular shoulders. Sharp edges give particular definition to the large wheel arches, forming quattro blisters, and these visually reference the presence of a new generation of electric quattro all-wheel drive. The only real changes over the original e-tron GT relate to wheel design. The rims remain huge, either 20 inches in size, as in this case, or 21 inches further up the range. You would also struggle to see many differences with this updated model at the front, although back-to-back inspection would reveal that this front masking plate is a bit different. The Audi rings are now set fractionally lower down. There's a glossy black finishing around these reshaped side air intakes. The LED matrix headlights look the same with their distinctive 3D look signature, but they're actually now narrower, and that makes space for a body-coloured strip between them and the front area panel. Owners will want to consider optioning these beams up with Audi laser light technology instead. This incorporates an extra spot which activates at over 43 miles an hour, and that doubles the beam range. With the original e-tron GT, the standard and RS models look much the same, but with this update, Audi's tried to differentiate them a bit more. As a result, this S e-tron GT gets silver triangular inserts in its front air dam, while RS e-tron GT models get sportier, larger intakes, a different grille, and L-shaped outer inserts finished in black or carbon fibre. At the back there's the usual Audi full-width light strip, and further down a redesigned rear diffuser insert with vertical ribbing and added gloss black horizontal inserts. This is a culmination point for air that flows beneath the smooth underbody, which then disperses cleanly off the rear end. It's directed by an active spoiler which extends electrically into a couple of different positions depending on how fast you're going. The idea being to compensate for the lift which occurs at the rear axle at high speeds. As usual though, what's even more important is what you can't see, the stiff, sophisticated, aluminium-rich J1 platform that this car shares with its VW Group cousin and its closest market rival, the Porsche Taycan. Built on this chassis are components made of hot-shaped and therefore ultra-high strength steel, which form the strong backbone of the passenger cell, helping to maximize rigidity and noise suppression in combination with targeted insulation measures throughout the entire body. So, still distinctly Audi outside. Let's open this frameless door and find out whether it'll be so at the wheel. We don't have this updated model's new active ride feature fitted here, but if we did, we'd be able to use a clever comfort entry feature, which can raise the body by 55 to 77 millimeters to make entry easier. Once inside at the wheel, what you get remains very different to what's served up in the equivalent Porsche Taycan. As before, the front of cabin experience here has what the brand calls a strong monoposto style driver focus. This was originally inspired by the cabin of the R8 super sports car. The upper section of this light, lean instrument panel with its pronounced three-dimensional look forms an elegant arc, and the display of the Audi Virtual Cockpit Plus instrument screen stands freely within that. The driver and front passenger, they sit low in the cockpit and they're separated by a wide center console, and that houses the gear selector switch. Its compact design emphasizes the sense of space. As with the outside, there aren't many changes over the original model, the main one being this redesigned steering wheel, which is now flattened at the top as well as at the bottom, and gains these touch-sensitive buttons, these control panels on the spokes. They're much more fiddly to use than the previous proper buttons. Otherwise, the updates are really just trimming changes like the restyled tread plates and smarter wooden trims for the dashboard and also for the center console. We have the optional natural birch dark wood inlays here. It is now possible to specify leather-free cabin trimming, which swaps the usual hide for sustainably sourced Cascade cloth upholstery. And that's created from polyester fibres made from old plastic bottles. It's actually rather nicer than that sounds, and the leather-free package comes with the bonus of suede-like Dynamica steering wheel trim. As before, this huge panoramic glass roof here is standard, but you can now add to it a polymer dispersed liquid crystal function, which allows the panel to change from opaque to clear at the touch of a button. We mentioned the instrument screen, which is 12.3 inches in size, and from Audi's Virtual Cockpit generation, which despite a few tweaked graphics may now feel a bit old hat to you if you've already tried one of the brand's more recent models with the company's latest digital stage screen format. But Virtual Cockpit still works very well with big dials which can shrink into smaller ones to leave a larger central space. The middle part of that display can show trip data, a range readout, drive assist graphics, your audio selection or mapping, and that will expand to full screen mapping when you shrink the dials. The RS e-tron's digital instrument cluster has been reskinned with a white power gauge. That's a tribute apparently to the white dials in the 1994 RS2 Avant. Also starting to feel a touch old is this MMI Navigation Plus with MMI Touch Full HD central screen. Not really because of its functionality, as long as you're not too irritated by all the legality sign-off screens you get at startup. The menus and the now slightly updated graphics work very well, and there are helpful shortcut options along the right-hand frame. It's more that a 10.1-inch monitor now seems a bit small for a car in this class, but it does incorporate everything that you'd want: 3D mapping, decent voice control, there's a smartphone interface with Alexa integration, there's the Audi App Store, and 3 years use of Audi Connect services with news and weather. You can also now build in wallpaper backing themes. We really liked Racetrack in the Afternoon and Northern Lights. What else? Well, the build quality of this test car is significantly better than of the original e-tron GT that we tried back in 2021, with none of the squeaks and rattles that we were very disappointed to hear back then. These one-piece 14-way adjustable sports seat plus front chairs look and feel nice, although the lovely honeycomb-stitched fine nappa leather that features here is restricted to ridiculously expensive Vorsprung trim. You also have to pay more for another feature that really lifts the cabin of this test car: these natural birch dark wood interior inlays. But the Dynamica microfiber trimmed door cards, they look nice, as does the e-tron GT graphic, which lights up at night ahead of the front seat passenger. And there's smart grey double stitching which flows from the doors into the dashboard and across the binnacle top. And not so good is the shiny black trimmed centre console with its unlidded cup holders, but there is of course the compensation of the standard Bang & Olufsen 3D premium sound system with 16 speakers and a 710 watt output. Of particular importance in a GT-style Grand Tourer is all-round visibility, so you'll be pleased to find that the view forward over the low-slung bonnet is almost faultless. Unfortunately though, your view rearwards isn't, thanks to the small rear window and tapering roofline too, which restricts your view out of the rear corners. So you'll be really needing the rear view camera and the all-round parking sensors. Provision for oddment storage around the cabin isn't particularly generous. Both the glove box, which has a pen clip, and the door bins are rather restricted in size, and this lidded bin between the seats here isn't especially large either. It incorporates a wireless phone charger, a 12-volt socket, and twin USB-C slots. Plus there's a storage cubby to the left of the gear selector and a ticket clip on the driver's sun visor. Right, time to take a look in the rear, accessed via this rather narrow door aperture. There are obvious design difficulties inherent in creating an electric vehicle of this kind, which is not an SUV. How, in a lower set sedan body shape, do you avoid the high stance which usually results from perching the passenger cabin on top of a whole bank of batteries? The kind of stance this e-tron GT just doesn't have. How have the designers managed it? Well, very cleverly, the rear footwells here might look conventional, but they're actually hollowed out sections of the floor pan. Audi calls them foot garages, which allow your feet to be positioned at the same lower height as the battery pack instead of being placed on top of it. So you sit comfortably, although not in the kind of spacious surroundings that you'd enjoy in a rival Tesla Model S, or indeed in the kind of conventionally engined boardroom level luxury saloon that e-tron GT money would alternatively buy you. For a GT style sports saloon, headroom is actually pretty good though, despite this glass roof, without which actually this part of the car would feel rather dark and rather claustrophobic. These tiny C-pillar windows really don't do much to help there. In theory, the cabin's wide enough to take 3 adults, but that's discouraged by the sculpting of the 2 outer seats and by the prominence of this central transmission tunnel. This is the kind of thing actually that you'd think you wouldn't need on an EV. There's no optional rear passenger central touchscreen display of the kind that you can have on a Porsche Taycan, but the rear climate controls between these twin vents are standard, and on the Vorsprung model you get heated seats too. There are some things that we're a bit disappointed by though. The tiny door bins, the lack of rear seat back pockets, and the way that the cup holders in this fold-out armrest aren't properly covered. But there are also some lovely touches actually. The beautifully integrated Bang & Olufsen door speakers, the extra coat hooks on the B-pillars, the vents in the footwells, and also the illuminated door sill inlays. Let's take a look at back. At first glance, you might think that this cargo area is accessed via a hatch, but no, this is essentially a sedan, which means it has a boot, the lid of which can be activated by a swipe of your foot beneath the bumper there. A rather narrow opening is revealed with an impractically covered silver trimmed lip through which you access a 405 litre space. It's 39 litres more than you get in an equivalent Taycan sports saloon. A narrow, shallow compartment is provided beneath the floor, and above the base, up to 6 carry-on suitcases could be accommodated, although that is way off the 11 that you could cram into a rival Tesla Model S. Still, all most owners will probably care about is that this area will be amply large enough for something like a set of golf clubs, which will fit in width-wise thanks to these recesses on either side. There's a deep well with a netted pouch by the recess on the left, and you can get a left-hand 12-volt socket. Thanks to the flexible 40-20-40 split of the rear seat back, longer items like skis can be pushed forward between 2 rear-seated passengers. If you need to flatten everything down, the space available expands to 1,171 litres. What you don't want to be doing back there is cluttering up that boot with all the charging lead bags. Fortunately, you don't have to do that because Audi provides instead a useful under-bonnet frunk area. It's activated by a tiny switch that you'll spend ages looking for. It's actually on the inside open part of the driver's door. The space you get here is tiny too. There's just 81 litres of it. That's around half the size of the one in the Tesla. Still, it is nicely lit with little compartments either side for essential tools. In an Audi oversight, those on the right are Porsche branded. We can't ever recall testing a facelifted model on sale at a price increase of nearly £30,000 over the original, but that's what we've got here. When we first tested the e-tron GT back in 2021, pricing kicked off at around £80,000. From the time of this update and at the time of this test in spring 2025, Audi was wanting nearly £108,000 from you for one of these. Yes, really, which might be okay if Ingolstadt was limiting sales to top spec trim, but no, top spec Vorsprung trim with this car costs nearly £132,000. Ingolstadt will point out that this S e-tron GT model's increased asking price now includes provision of a larger battery and standard air suspension, but even so, this does seem like a very big increase. The alternative, more powerful RS e-tron GT isn't our focus here. As we filmed though, that model was priced from £127,000 in standard 856 PS form, where it's also available in carbon black guise for around £140,000 or in top carbon Vorsprung trim for around £151,000. Audi also now offers an even wilder RS e-tron GT performance model with 925 PS. That's priced from around £143,000 as we filmed, and it's also available in carbon black and carbon Vorsprung forms. Let's get back though to this S e-tron GT and think about rivals. One of the reasons why this Audi now looks so expensive is that unlike its Porsche Taycan close cousin, it's not offered in either rear-driven or lower-powered forms. As we filmed, a rear-driven Taycan with a 435 PS with the same 105 kilowatt-hour battery started from around £88,000, and an all-wheel drive Taycan 4S with 598 PS, which gets to 62 just 0.3 of a second slower than this S e-tron GT, costs from around £96,000. If you're making Porsche and Audi comparisons, the Zuffenhausen product you'll need for a like-to-like match with this S e-tron GT would be the 700 PS Taycan GTS, which at the time of our test costs from just over £118,000. That's the only perspective from which this Audi looks like a bargain. In case you're wondering, there aren't any other direct competitors, not Grand Turismo style four-door ones anyway, unless you want to consider the left-hand drive only Tesla Model S, which costs nearly as much as this car. Otherwise, your only other option would be to factor in high-performance luxury electric SUVs like the BMW iX M70 or the Mercedes-AMG EQE 53. Well, if the price hasn't put you off, you're going to need to know about standard spec here with this Audi. So let's take a look at that right now. As you'd hope it would do for the cash, the standard specification here includes an awful lot. Earlier we mentioned the addition of electronically controlled two-chamber, two-valve air suspension. This incorporates adaptive damping. Plus, of course, the e-tron GT has always standardized quattro four-wheel drive. As well as this, there's also things which, once on this model, you might have expected to be charged extra for, like e-torque vectoring. This adds a regulated rear axle differential lock to the quattro system, along with matrix LED headlights, adaptive cruise assist, a heat pump, an 11 kilowatt onboard charger, charging ports on both sides, and what Audi calls an emotional electric sound for those who want powertrain sound effects. For easier town maneuvering, Audi also includes a power steering plus system, along too with a park assist with parking system plus setup. Now this will steer the car into tight spaces for you, and it also includes a remote function so you can stand outside the car and you can maneuver it with a phone app. The S e-tron GT also comes with a panoramic glass sunroof, the Audi Drive Select driving mode system, an active rear spoiler, a power-operated boot lid with motion-activated opening, power folding mirrors, rear privacy glass, heat-insulated glass, an acoustic glazed windscreen, auto headlamps and wipers, keyless go, keyless entry, and an anti-theft alarm. The car also now looks a bit more worthy of its six-figure price tag too, courtesy of big multi-spoke 20-inch wheels and a black styling package too, which gives you side air intakes in glossy black, horizontal inserts in the diffuser in glossy black, and the front and rear Audi rings are in anthracite grey. What about interior features? Well, there are Sport Seat Plus front chairs with 14-way adjustment, heating, an illuminated S badge and cascade stitched artificial leather upholstery, part trimmed with either cloth or suede-like Dinamica microfiber. There's also a head-up display, stainless steel pedals, a perforated leather steering wheel, a multicoloured ambient lighting system. There's the Audi phone box wireless charging mat too, and a 12.3-inch Audi Virtual Cockpit Plus instrument screen, and a 3-zone deluxe automatic air conditioning system, and that you can set remotely. Infotainment, that's taken care of by a 10.1-inch MMI Navigation Plus with MMI Touch full HD central screen. This incorporates 3D mapping, voice control, a smartphone interface with Alexa integration, the Audi application store, and 3 years use of Audi Connect services. Built into that is a Bang & Olufsen 3D premium surround system with 16 speakers and a 710-watt output. What about drive assist and safety features? Well, along with all the usual autonomous braking and lane keeping camera features, Audi also includes its Tour Assistance package. Now this will give you adaptive cruise assist, adaptive cruise control, also efficiency assist, turn assist, swerve assist, camera-based recognition of traffic signs, emergency assist, and active lane assist too. There's also the Audi Presense front and basic setup, which uses front camera data to warn of imminent collisions and initiate suitable braking. As for passive safety features, well as all the usual front airbags, these are all linked, of course, to an e-call system. Rear side airbags are included too. If you want more, you'll be offered a City Assist pack. Now this includes front cross traffic assist and lane change assist too. Talking of options, your Audi Centre is going to want to consider finding another £5,500 for the S Technology Pack Pro, which includes 3 key features. There's all-wheel steering with direct sport steering. This steers the rear wheels for extra cornering stability and tighter manoeuvring. There's also Audi laser light technology for the matrix LED headlamps. That adds a whole range of different driving condition lights and also gives you a little light show on approach and switch off. And for the 9-segment panoramic glass roof, there is switchable transparency. This has 4 presets and you can use that to make it opaque like a digital curtain. This latter feature that can be ordered separately. What else could you add? Well, there's a leather-free pack which creates a completely vegan-friendly cabin, complete with a black Dinamica microfiber steering wheel rim. This test car here has been fitted with natural birch dark wood interior inlays, which look really good. You could alternatively have inlays in carbon twill instead. Remember that unless you choose the only standard colour, and that's solid Arcona white, you'll need to budget nearly £1,000 more at least for your choice of exterior paint colour. We have metallic Kimura grey here. You might also want to pay more to have the 20-inch wheels there in a gloss black and bi-colour painted cast aluminium 5-spoke aero design. We did mention earlier, if you remember, that there's an even better specified Vorsprung version of this S e-tron GT available for another £23,000. This is the variant that you have to stretch to get Audi's latest active air suspension setup. Now this is supposed to be able to keep the car almost horizontal during cornering by raising the corner of the car on which the G-forces are acting. Unfortunately, that setup can't be ordered separately as a standalone option on this more affordable variant. You'd expect the extra outlay required for Vorsprung trim to also get you most, if not all, of the options that we've just mentioned, and by and large it in fact does. So a Vorsprung trimmed S e-tron GT comes with the City Assist pack and the 3 key features that come with the S Technology Pack Pro, the option we just mentioned. The all-wheel steering, the laser light headlamps, and also that fancy switchable roof. Other Vorsprung features include sport steering, a night vision assistant, gloss carbon black mirror housings, and bigger gloss black painted 21-inch wheels in forged aluminium with a 10-spoke trapezoid module design. Inside with Vorsprung trim, the Sport Seat Pro front chairs are 18-way adjustable. They come upholstered in honeycomb stitched fine nappa leather and feature both seat ventilation and massaging. You also get carbon twill satin matte inlays, vanadium black cabin accents, and a black Dynamica headliner, plus rear seat heating too. At this level, Audi also includes 2 features you might have hoped would have been included with standard trim: lane departure warning and a crossing assist system. Now this includes also the brand's Presense 360 feature. Earlier we mentioned the Faster RS e-tron GT model. It's not our focus here, but let's tell you that it standardizes 21-inch wheels and all-wheel steering. Plus it has an RS-specific Audi Virtual Cockpit instrument screen, and it standardizes the Vorsprung model's 18-way adjustable Sport Seats Pro, dark birch cabin inlays, and vanadium interior accents. The carbon black version adds carbon fiber finishing inside and out, and to that the exorbitantly priced RS e-tron GT Carbon Vorsprung adds the remaining Vorsprung level features that we mentioned earlier. Now, we mentioned the improved WLTP rated driving range earlier, 374 miles between charges of this new 105 kilowatt hour battery. Only 97 kilowatt hours of that is actually usable. This ought to be a little more achievable than the pre-facelift model's 76 mile lower figure, thanks to the now more powerful regenerative braking setup, which wastes rather less energy when it's decelerating. Now, as we told you earlier on in our driving section, the energy available to the e-tron GT via recuperation, which is of course regenerative braking, has increased from 290 to 400 kilowatts. The driver can select manual or automatic recuperation via the MMI central screen, as well as controlling it in 3 levels using these steering wheel shift paddles. Just as significantly, charging speed via the 800 volt system has been dramatically increased. This Audi can now charge at up to 320 kilowatts, up from 270 kilowatts before. Should you find a DC charger capable of dispatching that much power, then you'll be able to drive 174 miles after just 10 minutes of charging. Under ideal conditions, the e-tron GT family's HV battery can charge from 10 to 80% in only 18 minutes at a high-powered charging station. Outfitted with the brand's plug and charge package, the car automatically authorises and activates compatible charging stations when the charging cable is plugged in. The big HV battery also features a significantly wider quick charging window than the original model's 93 kilowatt hour pack, and even in low temperatures the car reaches very high charging performance faster. At home, using a 7.4 kilowatt wall box, you'll need 17 hours for a full charge, or 11 hours if you have an 11 kilowatt connection. As before, Audi usefully provides charging sockets on both sides of the car. For the first time, the Audi Virtual Cockpit Plus instrument screen provides customers with comprehensive information about the current operating state of the HV battery. That includes battery temperature, a quick charging forecast, and the preconditioning status too. Specifically, this last feature uses Audi-specific graphs and icons to clearly display the currently reachable charging power and the current temperature of the HV battery. battery. The Audi Virtual Cockpit Plus screen also indicates the preconditioning status when navigation to an HPC charging station is active. This allows the driver to see what charging performance to expect at a glance. Now, if you're converting to an EV from a previous conventional combustion engined model, you'll obviously need to factor in the cost of an EV charger for your home and perhaps, of course, even for your office. There is still some complexity around the best charging hardware to choose and who is eligible for a government grant. And obviously the costs can vary depending on the distance from your main meter to your charger and a lot of other factors too. There's lots of advice out there, of course, to guide you. We consulted plugmein.com, who offer customers everything from choice of charger to installation and ongoing maintenance. There are a few other things you'll need to know before you decide on ownership. First, depreciation will be savage. That's based on the market performance of the original version of this model. It lost around 27% of its value every 12 months. This updated model's price hike won't help it there, despite all the enhancements. On top of that, all e-tron GT variants are rated at a top-of-the-shop Group 50 for insurance, as of course are all its RS e-tron GT stablemates. You probably know that EVs are no longer exempt from VED road tax, and luxury models like this one get stung with the government's expensive car supplement, which on top of the standard fee for EVs, £10 in year one and £195 from year two onwards, imposes an additional annual fee of £425 every year for 5 years. That begins in the second year of registration. It's not all bad news, of course. On the plus side, your company benefit-in-kind tax rating will be low-pitched at 3% at the time of filming, although that will, of course, rise in coming years too. And although you do now have to pay the London congestion charge in your EV, you still get free access to the city's ULEZ zone. There is obviously a much wider dealer network than this car's Porsche Taycan design stablemate can offer, and you'll only have to visit your local Audi centre every 2 years or 20,000 miles for scheduled maintenance, whichever comes around first. Point of purchase would suggest you invest in one of the 3 levels of prepaid servicing packages that Audi offers with this car. Servicing should be less expensive than for a combustion engine model because an electric vehicle does, after all, have 20% fewer moving parts. And thanks to the recuperation management system and this model's very limited use of friction braking, you'll hardly ever have to replace the brake pads. The brand reckons every 6 years ought to be sufficient. This model is still covered by a 3-year 60,000 mile warranty, plus Audi issues an 8-year or 100,000 mile warranty that guarantees battery performance, although not to 100%. This e-tron GT also has 12 years of corrosion cover and a 3-year paint guarantee. No EV, of course, is completely green. The energy to drive this car has to cause pollution somewhere. Still, it does try to be. The carpet and floor mats are made from Econyl, which is a material fabricated from recycled nylon fibres, reclaimed from production waste, from fabric and carpet remnants or old fishing nets. You can specify a vegan interior if you want to, with upholstery made from recycled plastic bottles, and it's screwed together at a factory with a net zero carbon footprint, based at a site using 100% eco-electricity and heated by biogas. And that is all very good to know. Whether you choose this S e-tron GT rather than an equivalent version of its directly comparable Porsche Taycan cousin will of course be very much down to personal preference. If you're after an uber-fast, full electric, luxury segment mile muncher and you don't want an SUV, both cars are more appealing than the left-hand drive only Tesla Model S or the rather more limo-like Mercedes EQS. But that appeal wasn't enough to shift this Audi in significant numbers in its original form. Those prepared to give this model another chance and try this updated design, though, might be pleasantly surprised. Crucially, it goes much further between charges, but it's also faster, it charges more quickly, it rides better, it delivers more regen energy, and for those who can afford it, it delivers a very impressive active ride system. It's disappointing though that Audi couldn't have delivered all these improvements more affordably. The RS e-tron GT version of this model is now very expensive indeed, so we've no hesitation in recommending this slightly more affordable and accessible S e-tron GT model as the undoubted go-to choice in the range. It's hard though to ignore the fact that virtually everything that this car offers can be had at quite a saving from a Porsche Taycan 4S. Still, you might be prepared to pay the extra for this Audi's additional power, its different look and its more laid-back drive dynamics. It has an arguably more sumptuous cabin too than you'll get in a Taycan. Here then, finally, is an Audi EV you might really desire. It'll give the brand's sensible e-tron badge some much needed want one factor.